Hey, what's up everybody? I like JUCE tutorial, and in this tutorial what we're going to do is we're going to create a very simple UI using the FlexBox class. So the FlexBox class really emulates the kind of standards set out by web developers, in that if you have a page where you want to kind of make the size of the page bigger or smaller, as you make the size of the page smaller or bigger, you can see that the text here just kind of dynamically wraps around, and you can see that. I'm sure you've seen it if you've ever surfed on the internet before, where this just kind of changes dynamically. And so we're going to do the same sort of thing in JUCE. The reason that we do it this way is that if you have a UI and you want to adapt it to a different type of screen, you want to prevent adding what's called magic numbers. And magic numbers are where, let's say that we have a slider that we've set at 500, but your screen is only 250 pixels by 250 pixels. Well, you're not going to see the slider that's going to be off the screen at 500. So instead, what we do is we use this something like a FlexBox class, so that no matter what the screen size is, we can still see all of the components. So that's why we're using this FlexBox class. So as always, if you like this video, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Also, we have the Patreon set up as well for the audio programmer. So if you'd like to support the channel, we have a lot of different rewards that we're giving out, like hoodies, stickers, t-shirts, and it would be great to have your support, and you can find the link for that below. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've developed a simple project here where we have 6 sliders that I've set up, and then in our constructor what we have is just some very basic settings. So we have 3 vertical sliders and we have 3 rotary sliders. I've just made different colors. I've made it where the text box is not visible, and then I've just done this add and make visible so that we can actually add it to our UI. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the FlexBox class to actually do this, and I will show you how. So first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to do a very quick demonstration of what the old way would look like here. So let's say that, so the old way would be that we would create a rectangle object, and we'll just call this bounds equals get local bounds. Right. By the way, I've made this project. I've uploaded it to my GitHub as well. I'll put the link for that below. So normally we would create a rectangle object, and then let's say that we would try to do slider, or let's do just slider 1 set bounds, and then normally you would, I mean, in this case, the bounds, you wouldn't even need the bounds rectangle object, but just to demonstrate what we would do here, let's say we would set it at 250, and then it would be 100, or let's do 50 pixels wide by 100 pixels long. And then if I compile that, and it's going to take a second to compile, what you'll see, or what we should see, is a slider at 250. And let's see here if it comes up. Just waiting for it to do its thing. And so as we see here, we have a slider that's at 250, right? So the problem is that if our UI is like this, we won't be able to see all of those, we won't be able to see that slider. Okay, so the stuff I'm going to show you in this tutorial is just the kind of very basics of it, and there are a lot of different ways that you can use it. And what I'm doing is I just want to give you an introduction to it so that you can go and you can explore. So what we've done here is we have this, we've created this rectangle called bounds, which is get local bounds. So what I'm saying here is that I have a rectangle object that is the size of this particular component. And the size of this is 800 pixels by 600 pixels. So next thing that we would do, if we go to the documentation here, and you know how I'd like to do these tutorials, I like to always refer to it as if I'm doing it live, the way that I would do this. So first thing that we would need to do is we would need to create a FlexBox item. So we'll just call this FlexBox. And now what we can do is we can look at some of the different options that we have. So we have the direction. So the way that this works is that you have a FlexBox, and then what we do is we add what's called flex items to the box, right? So it just says that right here. So you got a FlexBox, which is a container, and then it manages the layout of a set of flex item objects. So you add the flex items to like an array, and then you basically say, okay, now lay it out the way with using the rules that I've laid out here. So as you can see, we have a couple different options here. So we have the direction that we can lay it out. We can lay it out in a row, or we can lay it out in a column, or column reverse, row reverse. We could do what's called wrapping, and wrapping is what I just showed to you with this web page, where as you bring the UI smaller, then the UI is going to basically wrap the components around. And then there are a couple other items here that I've explored a little bit, but I haven't really done a whole lot with. But there are things that I can show you. I'll just show you kind of how to set them up, and then you can go on and you can explore those yourself. So what we do is we add the flex items to this array, right? So we have this flex item array, and then what we do is we tell it to perform the layout. So we basically say, here are the items, go and lay them out. And then it will then, based on the rules that we've set out, the FlexBox will actually nicely lay out all of your components to your UI. So no need to do hard-coded numbers like normal. So here we go. So we have a FlexBox object. We'll set out some rules here. So first thing that we need to do is let's make a direction. So there's going to be a method down here that returns a direction object. So we got FlexBox flex direction. So we got FlexBox flex direction, and then direction equals. And then just to get a hold of this enum, we would say FlexBox. So we got to give the class name, which is FlexBox, and then flex direction, and then so we want direction row. I guess FlexBox direction row, just like that. Okay, so we're just gonna, for this first example, we're just gonna have it going across. And then we can do this, we'll make it wrap. So we'll do FlexBox flex wrap equals FlexBox wrap, and then we'll have it wrapping around. And then we'll these other ones I haven't really explored a whole lot, but we could just do align content, and we'll do align content stretch for now. So FlexBox align content equals FlexBox align content. Oh. Stretch. So I think that's fine. So now what we need to do is we've set out a couple different rules here. And as I said, we're going to add items, and then we're going to have this this part where we say perform layout. And as you can see, it takes a rectangle object, and that's going to be our target area. So first thing that we'll do is we'll just add all of the sliders to the FlexBox, and then we'll just add it. We'll just ask it to lay out all the three linear sliders and then the three rotary sliders, just all in one row. So we will at the bottom here, we know that we're going to do a layout. We're going to perform layout. So we will do FlexBox, perform layout. And then in here, I'll just put bounds. So we know that that's going to go at the bottom because we're going to add the items. So we've set the rules, we add the items, then we say perform the layout. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go up here and we're going to say, okay, so we have this array of flex items. All right, so we will say array flex items. So these are the items that we're adding, and I'll just call those items. And now, so one big thing that confused me when I was making this tutorial was this array is not like a std array. So with a std array or an std array, as some of us know it, you would need to know what the size of the array is at compile time. So you need to set that out because you can't dynamically change the size of an array the way that you can with a vector. So you have to set out the size of it. You have to say, I'm going to have 10 items in this array. But this is a JUCE array. This JUCE array object actually acts more like a vector, so you can add items to it. So what I could do is I could just say items add. So this is equivalent to push back, as you would see in a vector. So now what we see here is that we need a flex item object. So let's say that we don't know what that means. So what we could do is we could just go back to our API. We can just open this up here. And now we have our flex items, our flex items methods here. So here, once again, there are a lot of different methods that you can use here, but I'm just going to go over the very basics of it. So here we have flex item. We have we give it a width, we give it a height, and then we put in our component, our slider here. Okay, so we can just say flex item, and here we'll say let's just say 50. The width will be 50, the height will be 100, and then this will be slider 1. All right, and then now we're just going to do the same thing with all of these. So I'll just type it out again so you can see it. Flex item. So we're adding an item to our FlexBox, and then once again we're just going to make the size of that 50 by 100, and then this is going to be slider 2. Okay, and just for time's sake, I'm just going to just do this 6 times. So we got 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now we've added all of these items to our array. So now we need to tell the Now we need to tell the FlexBox that which items that we want it to lay out. So we could do that if we go back to the API. We just scroll down and we see there's this method that's just called items, where we tell it which items that we want to lay out. So we say FlexBox items equals items. Okay, so I'm just talking about this. I'm talking about this array. I'm going to call it a different name just so to prevent confusion. I'm just going to say item array. Let's call it like that. Just so we can discern between these. There we go. So there we go, item array. And then we say perform the layout. I'm just going to get rid of this blank space. Okay, we don't want blank space there. And everything looks clean, everything looks organized. So now we're just going to build this and see if this works. And hopefully it'll be good to go. So here we are. So as you can see, it's laid out the items side by side. Now, if you're wondering, well, why are they so close together? Why are they not going all the way across? Well, that's because the size of each element that we've laid out we've only laid it out to be 50 pixels wide. So it's just going to go over. It's going to go to the right 50 pixels and lay out the next element. Okay. So whereas let's just say for argument's sake, I say 150. Let's say 150. It's going to go off the screen, I think. So we'll build this, but you'll see what I mean. Okay. So as you can see, this wraps around like that because the size. So at the moment, I think the size of our width is 800, and 150 times 6 is, so you got 3, 6, 9. So that's 900, but the size of our screen is only 800. So what it's done is it's laid it all nicely, and then it's laid out this other one because it said, hey, you're going off the edge here. So I'm just going to wrap you around. And the reason it does that is because we have FlexBox wrap activated. Okay, now let's just try really quick. I think it'd be called no wrap. Yeah, so let's just compile that and let's see what happens there. And you'll see what I mean, hopefully. So as you can see, this time around, it didn't wrap the other element around because we've turned that off. The reason that these sliders are so big is because we have stretch. We have stretch activated. I think if I take this off, so let's see, align content. And what options do we have here? Flex start. I think actually, I'm not sure if it's align content or align items. So let's just try that, see what happens. So as you can see, it hasn't stretched it out when I've decided to do flex start rather than stretching the elements out. I'm just going to change this back to stretch really quick. And like I said, this is just kind of an introduction. There are loads of different things. There are margins and max and min numbers that you can put to how large or how small you would like the items to resize. So let's turn wrap back on. So that's example one. We have one FlexBox. We've put them all in a row and laid them out very nicely when we had wrap activated. we saw that it wrapped the next component around if our screen was too small. Okay, but what if we wanted to have the three? So at the moment we've got three sliders, then we've got three dials. Now, what if I wanted instead? I wanted to have the three sliders, and then below that, I wanted to have the three dials. Well, let's see how we could do that. So the way that we would do that is we could create another flex box. Okay, so we have the first flex box, and then what we'll do, so that means that we need two flex boxes, we need two item arrays. So we'll just do that right now. So we got flexbox 2, and then I'll just copy these. So we'll just make them with the same type of rules. And then we'll just make another item array. So this is going to be item array. We'll just call this item array 2. And then we're just going to do that. Now what we need to do is we're going to take this, we're going to put this up here so that we have all of our Flexbox 1 stuff, and then we're going to have all of our Flexbox 2 stuff. So let's see what happens now. Making sure I have everything right. And let's take a look. Okay, so that hasn't done what I expected it to do, which is interesting. Oh yes, of course. Okay, so what happened there was that we're performing the layout of each flexbox on the bounds. The bounds is get local bounds. Get local bounds is the size of our whole UI. So what we need to do is we need to divide this up. So we could say, so perform layout, and we can use we can actually cut out the rectangle where we say bounds remove from top, and then here we could say how much we want to remove from the top. So if we want the sliders to be up at the top, we want to remove the area from the top so we could put the sliders there. So I'm going to remove half the size of the UI, which is 300 pixels. And I'm just going to remove that there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these first three sliders, the linear sliders there on the top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the three dials below that with the remaining with the remaining space. So let's see how that works out. And hopefully this is right. Okay, that's not. Once again, that's not it. So let's see here. So what did I do? So we got bounds removed from top. Just thinking about what I need to do here. I'm just going to do remove from bottom really quick. See what happens. Just a little bit of live debugging. Okay, so that's put our sliders up top there as we wanted to. So I'm just going to. So if I'm removing it from the bottom, I'm moving three. Yeah. So that makes sense. So if I have the bounds and I remove 300 from the bottom, that would place that would place the sliders at the top, right? So now I need to figure out why this isn't working. the way that I want it to. So I'm going to just try this really quick. That's not going to be right. I know it's not going to be right. Okay. So as you can see, not everything works perfectly. Okay, so that didn't work. So now what I'm going to do, so you're going to see how I'm just going to kind of work through this mistake here, and just kind of do a bit of live debugging here. So now let's see if, so I've seen something here. So this should be item array 2. So that seems to be the reason why this is not working properly. So now we should see 3 rotary sliders, but they're going to take up the whole screen now. So that's fine. So now we're going to bring this back. And I think this is removed from top, not removed from bottom. And let's see if this works. Yes, so there we are. So we have so when you're removing it from the top, you're reserving the space from the top to put the sliders. And then now we're putting the 3 sliders, the 3 rotary sliders underneath that. So that's fine. Okay, so let's see, what about if we wanted, and let's just take a look at what happens when we resize the UI. See, you can see that it always attempts to keep all of the components on the screen, no matter how you configure the UI. Okay, so now let's just say that we want to have these 3 sliders vertically, and then we want to have the rotary dials beside them. So what we could do is we could go back here and we could say, instead of row, we could say column, just in our flexbox direction, just like this. Right. And now instead of remove from top, we want to remove from left. I don't like when it does that. So let's do that. And then so we're going to remove 300. We'll make it 400 pixels since our width is 800. And then we're going to, so we're removing 400 from the left so we can place our 3 linear sliders. Then with the remaining space, we're going to put our 3 dials. Okay. And there we are. Okay. Now, once again, you might be thinking, well, why are these so small? Why aren't they the same size as before? Well, the reason is because we've laid out the dimensions of each flex item as 150 pixels wide, 100 pixels down. So it's going to go, since we're laying these out vertically, it's just going to go 100 pixels, lay out the next component, 100 pixels, lay out the next component. So if let's say that we wanted that to be let's say 150, so we can fit it all on the screen. So we can say 150. Or actually, I'm going to say 200, sorry. 200. Let's see how that looks. And you'll see the size increase. So there we go. So you see those items have now increased. Once again, if I tried to dynamically just kind of resize it, you see that it tries its best to maintain visibility of all the components. So that's it. That's where I'm gonna end things here. So that's just a very quick introduction. So you can just create a number of different flex boxes, add your items, and then we have a lot of other different. You have a lot of other different options here. where you can say with flex, so it has kind of growing and shrinking values that you can kind of control with minimum height, with maximum height. You got like with align, how you want the items to align. And so you could say auto align, you can align in the center, you can stretch it. So there's a lot of different options there that you could do with that UI. And so this is just an introduction to hopefully get you started and get you experimenting. And that's where I'm going to end this tutorial. And I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, if you like it, subscribe and drop me a like, because it's always good to hear positive feedback. And if you think that there's a way that this could be done better, I'd love to hear your feedback on that as well. Just drop me a comment below, and I will see you next time.